Hi everyone, my name's Sue Davis of Talent Gen, and having had quite a few conversations with friends and colleagues over the last few days, I thought it might be useful for me to put together some tips for those of you now finding yourself working from home, which I guess is the majority of the population at the moment. I've done this under what I would call the 7 deadly sins, so the 7 traps that it would be really easy to fall into when you're working from home. And I've underlined that with a few tips to help you when you are working from home to maintain that work-life balance. So I hope you find these useful. So let's start with sin number 1. So sin number 1 is no routine. I would say you need to allocate yourself a start time, a finish time, and make sure you have some breaks in there for lunches and maybe taking some time away if you're working from a screen. It's very, very important. It can be really easy when you're working from home to get caught up with distractions that may be going on with family, pets, a TV programme you want to catch, or maybe a job that you want to catch up on that you've been meaning to do for ages. I think if you just set yourself some boundaries around when you aim to start, when you aim to finish, you can still plan that time. Having those start and finish times will also help any family members around you to understand those boundaries and to minimise any interruptions that you may feel might arise otherwise had you not have done that. The other thing about having a start and finish time is it means you're less resentful of having to go to work, if you like, if there's other people around you that are not going to work. It just gets your mindset ready that you know you're starting at 9 o'clock, for example. So make sure you have those in place. Okay, sin number 2 is not getting ready. So whilst there can be a real temptation at the moment to stay in your pyjamas all day, I would definitely say don't do that at all. Getting ready for work is part of getting you psychologically ready for work as well. So that act of getting ready prepares us mentally for what the day has in store. So it doesn't mean to say that you need to be digging out a business suit and wearing that around the house. That might be a little bit crazy. So just dress for the occasion. What I tend to do is think about what am I doing today. So if I'm meeting a client virtually online, for example, then I may wear something that's a little bit smarter. Likewise, if I'm doing design work, not going to be visible, but I need to be comfortable, that's important. So I'll go for clothes that are comfortable for me. And I think that works for me. So I think that will be my top tip here for you. Making yourself getting dressed and ready is usually part of your routine anyway. So that normally helps with sin 1 that I've just talked about. Okay, moving on to sin 3, wasting time. We all do this from time to time, don't we? Yes, Sue, we all waste time. Time management is really key when you're working from home. So if, like me, you have jobs that you really love and have no problem getting started, but then you might have those others that you're tempted to push to the back of the queue that you maybe love a little less. You could spend hours procrastinating when you work from home. Working from home, I generally find the best way to approach it is focus on outputs rather than time spent sat at the desk. So know what you want to achieve and use a time management method to help you to achieve that. So whether that is a to-do list or whether it's the urgent important matrix, whatever works for you, make sure you use a good time management method. The other thing about working from home is you need to minimise those distractions. The same as work, really, I guess. So phones, emails, social media, they're all great, but they can all be a great source of interruptions as well. So you need to manage those to make sure you can get the most out of your time. If you want my advice here, what I tend to do is if I'm trying to get something done, the phone goes off, I close down the emails until I've finished it. Otherwise, I'd never get it finished, being completely honest, because I love looking around, I love interacting with other people. So I think the top tip is turn it off if you're trying to get something done, focus on what you want to get done, and maybe have a few key points throughout the day, maybe first thing in the morning or last thing at night, where you check your emails and respond to that. That's the best way I find to work with that. Otherwise, you're working to other people's timescales and schedules and not your own. Okay, moving on to sin 4, feeling guilty. Many people, when they first start working from home, have this real desire to be seen or feel they need to be seen. And if you can recognise this, maybe it's, I'm meant to start at 9 and finish at 5, so I'll make sure I send my boss an email at those times. Any of you doing that at the moment? If you are, then I'd say please stop. It's not necessary. And try not to feel guilty. So if you want to take a little bit of time, particularly at the moment with such unusual times, you may find that you want to take your hour's walk that we're allowed to have. You may want to do that in the afternoon while the kids are still around and full of energy. So if that is you, then don't feel guilty. Working from home, as I say, is about outputs, not necessarily time spent. And if you are a person that does find that difficult and you are struggling at the moment with feeling guilty and balancing it all out, my advice is go back to basics with the diary planning. So if, for example, if you work an 8-hour day and you want to go out for a walk at 2 o'clock with the family, it's making sure you work a little bit of time in the morning. Say you work 4 hours, you might stop for an hour, have lunch. You might do another hour, and then you might then take another hour out and go and walk with the kids. That leaves you 3 hours left to fill in the afternoon. And that way you can be comfortable that you've covered your hours, and hopefully that will stop you from feeling guilty. The other thing about working from home is I do find you need regular breaks. So in terms of feeling guilty, that little bit of 5 minutes away from the screen can make sure that you stay productive. For example, when I'm working on design work, if I get stuck at any point or I run out of ideas, sitting behind the laptop trying to force them is not going to help. So what I generally do is take myself up and off, go for a quick brisk walk around the block, and what I find is that then renews my energy levels. I come back, I'm a lot more productive than I would have been sitting here trying to force it. Okay, sin number 5. Now, this is all about the workstation, not having a proper workstation, or we could call it the curse of the laptop if you're working from a laptop, which I'm sure many of you are. There are many benefits from having a laptop. Indeed, you can choose your environment, you can move it around to switch the energy, just tapping into the point I've just mentioned. However, they are also notoriously bad for poor posture. And ultimately, if you're doing that for a long period of time, that can lead to problems further down the line. Now, I know some of you may have thought, okay, I'll just set up at the kitchen table. It's only for a few weeks. None of us really know how long it's going to be for at the moment. So my advice is set yourself up a proper workstation now, because that will save you any problems further down the line. So invest that little bit of time. If you're not sure how to do that, hop onto the Health and Safety Executive website. There's lots of tools and techniques on there, and it shows you how to do it properly. As a golden rule, that if you're working on a laptop, the screen should be at eye level. So make sure you have got, you're adhering to that really. If you're looking down at it like that, then it's probably not the right position to be working in, which terribly laptops do encourage, sadly. A quick fix I sometimes find if I'm out and about is you can prop your laptop up on a pile of books. That then raises the level of the screen, which can be quite helpful. And then just attach your keyboard and a mouse, and even better, attach a monitor. And then you've got a ready-made workstation ready to go. Okay, sin 6, complacency. Our homes are our sanctuaries. They're our safe place, I think it's fair to say. However, if you've got company documents there, you have certain obligations to keep them safe and secure. So just make sure you think about that in terms of how you store them, how you're sending them. So sometimes I've heard people say that, they're working with their own company emails and they go through a firewall. Sometimes it can take longer, it can have problems, so they will send things via their personal email account. The trouble with that is it's not always quite as secure. So just think about that and think about what you're sending and make sure you maintain that. As I say, you have got a bit of a duty of care there in relation to any company documents you brought with you. The other point around complacency is just being aware of staying safe online, really. So it's making sure you have some up-to-date virus software installed on whatever machine you are using, laptop, PC, whatever it may be. A friend of mine got caught out with this recently, so it's certainly worth investing. Hopefully, if you're working for a large organisation, they've provided that. If not, if like me, you work for yourself, then it's certainly worth investing. It's not a huge amount of money. I would say it's probably around £120 for the year maximum, and that will keep you nice and safe in terms of any viruses. The last point, and probably biggest under complacency really, is making sure you back up your data. Yes, absolutely. Too many good pieces of work have been lost for me for not having adequate backup in place. Not for me personally, but I've seen it happen to colleagues. And I think it's really, really important to make sure that that is well and truly in place and that you have got some adequate backup measures. Okay, so my final tip, sin 7, self-isolation. Yes, it's a sin. Okay, I know. Now, within the current climate of social distancing and the coronavirus at the moment, self-isolation is a necessary thing, and we have to avoid unnecessary contact with people at the moment. But it can become a lonely place working from home, and if, like me, you enjoy that social interaction, it's making sure you have that contact strategy in place so that you're not alone, if you like. Because let's face it, if you were at work and you were working on something and you maybe just wanted to bounce around a few ideas with people, you might go and talk to a colleague. I know I certainly do it. I talk to colleagues and people like myself when I'm designing. We help each other. And it can be quite a good forum for making sure that you're not just siloed in your own thinking. So have a contact strategy in place. You can maybe buddy it with somebody. I think the thing I'd say about that is going back to my earlier point about managing time. You don't want to be their interruption. You don't want to be the person that's on the phone interrupting them if they're trying to get work done. So do it in a respectful way. Make sure you've got a scheduled time to catch up, and that will work out best for both of you. Platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, if they haven't already, will very quickly become your best friend in this environment. And they are a pretty good substitute for face-to-face as a bit of an alternative. I like face-to-face. I think, for me, there is no substitute. But if in today's environment we can't do that, then it is the next best thing. So I think if you haven't already trialled them, give them a try, have a play around, see how you get on. You may find you like one more than the other. So that's my 7. I hope it's useful to you. Naturally, if you do need any more help with working from home, I am available, so do get in touch and I'll endeavour to do what I can to help and guide you. I'd love to hear your comments, so if you've picked up any tips whilst you've started working from home, then feel free to drop those in the comments. I think my closing remarks would be that it can be very rewarding when you manage it well, working from home. I certainly find that when I have a full day here, I gain valuable time back from not having to commute, not having that long drive in the car. And actually thinking about it, maybe the coronavirus will teach us all some good in terms of knowing what's essential and what's important. So maybe some good will come out of the other end of this. Right, so that's all from me. Until we emerge out of the other side, stay safe, everyone. I hope to see some of you very soon, and I hope you found this useful. Bye for now.